We all do it. Every single night, we shut down, close our eyes, and just drift off. And for pretty much all of human history, we've thought of sleep as, well, just rest, a passive state, right? But what we're learning now is that there's this hidden, incredibly active world inside our heads when we're asleep. And honestly, understanding it changes everything. So let's pull back the covers and see what's really going on. Just let that sink in for a minute. 1/3 of your entire life, gone. Asleep. If you make it to 90, that is 30 full years. For something that takes up so much of our time, isn't it kind of wild how little we've really understood about what's actually happening?
And that's really the big question we're diving into. What if switching off your conscious mind is the signal for your brain to switch on its most essential maintenance crew? What if it's not downtime at all?
That's exactly it. While you're off in dreamland, your brain is actually clocking in for its night shift, and believe me, it has a very critical job to do.
The best way to picture it is kind of like a dishwasher. I mean, think about it. All day long, your brain cells are firing away, you're thinking, you're working, you're creating, and all that activity produces metabolic waste. It's like dirty dishes piling up. So at night, your brain runs this powerful cleaning cycle to wash all that junk away.
And this whole process, it actually has a name. Scientists call it the glymphatic system. And it's a pretty recent discovery that has just completely changed how we think about the real purpose of sleep.
So this system, it's basically the brain's own personal garbage collection service. Its main gig is to flush out all these potentially harmful proteins that build up while we're awake. And that includes a big one you've probably heard of, amyloid beta, which is the protein closely linked to Alzheimer's disease.
And how it works is, honestly, it's just so clever. See, clean cerebral spinal fluid gets pumped into the brain along the outside of your arteries. Then it flows deep into your brain tissue, where it mixes with the fluid between your cells and starts collecting all that metabolic gunk. And then this dirty fluid gets flushed out along your veins, carrying all those toxins away.
But here's the part that is just mind-blowing. For this cleaning to happen properly, your brain literally changes shape. The space between your brain cells actually expands by about 60% while you're asleep. It's like the city deciding to widen all its streets at night just so the cleaning crews can get in and do their work without any traffic jams.
Now here's the catch. This whole deep clean doesn't really happen during a light little nap. The glymphatic system kicks into high gear during the absolute deepest stage of sleep, what we call slow wave sleep. So this means the quality of your sleep is just as important, maybe even more important, than the quantity. You have to get that deep, restorative sleep for the cleanup crew to really do its job.
Okay, so if this system is so vital, what happens when it doesn't get a chance to run? Well, the consequences aren't just personal, they're economic, and they are absolutely staggering. $411 billion. That's the estimated economic cost of not getting enough sleep every single year, just in the United States. To put that into perspective, that's more than $1,200 for every single person in the country, lost every year. It's a number that's almost hard to wrap your head around. And it all comes from a problem we usually just dismiss as, being a little tired.
And hey, this is a global crisis. It's not just a US thing. Look at Japan. They lose almost 3% of their entire GDP to sleep deprivation. The US and the UK aren't that far behind. This isn't some small issue. It's a massive, massive drain on entire national economies.
So where is all that money going? Well, part of it is absenteeism. That's when people are just too tired or sick to even show up to work. But the much bigger, sneakier problem is something called presenteeism. That's when you're physically there, you're at your desk, but your brain is just foggy and unfocused because it never got that deep clean the night before. You're clocked in, but you're not really there. And beyond the dollars and cents, there's a very real human cost. If you consistently sleep less than 6 hours a night, you're looking at a 13% higher risk of mortality. It just makes sense, right? When the brain's cleaning system fails, night after night, that long-term buildup of toxins is going to take a serious toll on your health. Okay, so the evidence is pretty clear. Sleep is not optional. But here's the good news. There are real, concrete, science-backed steps that we can all take to get better sleep and help our brains do this incredibly important job. Now, there are some great tips here, but I want to point out a couple that might surprise you. First, that advice to get out of bed if you can't sleep, it sounds totally backward, I know, but it's all about retraining your brain. You want your brain to think of your bed as a place for sleep and only sleep, not for tossing and turning and worrying. And look at that last one. Financial stress is linked to losing 10 minutes of sleep every single night. That adds up. It just goes to show you how deeply our mental state and our sleep quality are connected.
But this isn't just on us as individuals. What can we do on a bigger scale? Well, employers can help build a culture that actually respects rest. Discouraging those late-night emails that keep our brains buzzing. Even simple things, like designing brighter workspaces, can help regulate our internal clocks. These aren't just nice-to-have perks. They're a direct investment in the health and productivity of the entire workforce.
And that really brings us to the final thought here. For so long, we've had this hustle culture that glorifies pulling all-nighters and running on empty. But the science is just undeniable now. Sleep isn't a weakness. It's not a luxury. It is a non-negotiable biological necessity for your brain to clean, repair, and reboot itself. So I guess the only question left is, when are we all going to start acting like it?